Campaigners say the Nuked blood review by ministers is yet another cover-up. A promised inquiry into evidence of troops used in radiation experiments has been labelled a sham by veteran families. If you're not yet familiar with one of the greatest outstanding injustices of our time, hold on to your seats.
70 years ago, Sir Winston Churchill authorised the first British nuclear test, and you were called on to serve.
It was to become the longest running scandal in British history, a scandal which has been perpetrated by successive governments.
There was a white flash.
When this takes place, thousands of tons of atomized earth, stone, brick and steel are sucked up into the mushroom cloud and become highly radioactive.
We saw this huge ball of burning flame, and underneath it was this white tail following it up. There was a big, thick, black line hurtling toward us, and it hit us.
Between 1952 and 1967, an estimated 22,000 UK troops were involved in 45 nuclear weapons tests and nearly 600 radioactive experiments in America, Australia and the South Pacific.
My name's Brian Unthank. I'm nearly 86. This is my wife, Marion. We've been married 45 years in October. Hello, dear.
Did you have a good time?
Lovely. I was 19 years old when I was posted to RAF Chrysalis Island as a young cook. Not a clue of where I was, where it was, how I was going to get there, what I was going to do. It was just a case of you going to Chrysalis Island. It turned out to be where the British government tested hydrogen bombs.
Around 10% of troops were on national service.
Veteran John Morris was stationed on Christmas Island in the South Pacific in the 1950s.
I was there for 4 atomic bombs. The nearest was 20 miles away. And I had a pair of shorts, a shirt on and sunglasses. And it was like sitting in the centre of the sun.
Today, only 2,000 or so, most in their 80s and with chronic health problems, still survive. They report high rates of cancer, blood disease, birth defects, miscarriage and infant mortality. But their medical records detailing blood and urine tests taken to assess what impact these tests might be having on their bodies are mysteriously missing.
John developed anemia and was later diagnosed with cancer, like many others he served with. He went on to have children, but his son died when he was a baby. John believes it's all because of radiation and says his medical records from the time should show this.
I know for a fact that I had urine and blood samples taken, and they are not recorded. But the MOD suggests they were never taken.
If the state was conducting medical tests upon servicemen and not informing them when they found serious irregularity, that is at the very least misconduct in public office. A more serious, perhaps gross negligence manslaughter in respect of people who died as a result.
Steve Pearce was born with a series of disabilities. His father David ran an airfield in Australia where nuclear weapons tests were carried out. Steve has been trying to get hold of his dad's medical files.
I had an email just this week from the RAF saying, yes, the MOD search has found the information you require, but no, you can't have him. And they're quoting some law about confidentiality. What they're hiding. It's as if they know that what Dad was exposed to probably caused my condition, and they just don't want me to have him.
In order to find out what really happened to his father, he's launching legal action along with veterans and other relatives.
Despite always having denied it held information about blood testing, the atomic weapons establishment has recently been forced to declassify a top-secret database which contained thousands of pages of information about the program. And documentary evidence has been uncovered that atomic scientists took blood tests from the servicemen as part of a monitoring program. The results were classified as scientific data, which has been used as an excuse to keep them from survivors and families, even today.
Governments have fought every legal action, fought every war pension claim. But in 2023, after a really long FOI battle, I was passed a document. It was earth-shattering. It contained 150 documents, all about blood and urine testing of troops, of civilians, of Australian personnel, and of Indigenous people. I was astonished at the contents. Blood testing, blood data, medical examinations on natives, everything that the MOD had said for 30 years that it didn't have. Hundreds and thousands of men were subject to orders for blood testing and had had it done. And they failed to disclose that to multiple courts. It was proof the MOD had been lying all this time.
Modern-day defence ministers have refused to publish the advice they've received about these vital records. Based on this new evidence, the veterans and their families are launching a landmark legal action to end 7 decades of trauma caused by secrecy and cover-ups by successive governments.
We are witnesses to a live cover-up. We are witnesses to misconduct in public office. And if we don't act, we become complicit in that live cover-up and complicit in misconduct in public office.
The failure to provide these records is unlawful and may even constitute a criminal offence. Hiding this kind of information behind national security exemptions could also lead to prosecutions for misconduct in public office, an offence which carries a maximum life sentence.
I have to say, it's always sometimes bad to create a hierarchy of injustices, but this is the greatest. People serving our country abroad, 22,000 of them, just put absolutely into harm's way. This is, I'm afraid, the greatest outstanding injustice of them all.
And now nuclear veterans have accused the Labour government of yet another cover-up over the Nuked blood scandal after an admission that no money has been set aside to investigate it. The Ministry of Defence announced an internal inquiry last year into allegations that servicemen, civilians and Indigenous people were unwittingly exposed to radiation and monitored for health effects by scientists. Defence Secretary John Healey had promised a thorough review of evidence uncovered by the Mirror about the medical monitoring programme a day after a BBC documentary highlighted the scandal. But 6 months on, Veterans Minister Al Cairns has made the shocking admission that no money has been made available for it. In response to a written parliamentary question, Veterans Minister Al Cairns said, "There is no ring-fenced budget associated with this exercise." So the government has admitted it's provided no budget to the Veterans Minister Al Cairns for his review and can't say when it will produce any answers. As Alan Owen, founder of campaign group Lab Rats, has said, a review without money behind it is just there to give the ministers cover if asked what they're doing. Unless there's a budget and a dedicated external team, there's no hope of getting any answers. You can't end a 70th scandal on a shoestring. This is no way for the government to treat national heroes. This country owes them and their families a huge debt of honour and gratitude. But instead, successive governments have stonewalled them and subjected them to decades of maltreatment and injustice. Well, let's show these national heroes that they're not alone, that we have not and never will abandon them. Let's show them by standing shoulder to shoulder with them now and by honouring the enormous sacrifice they've made for this country. You can support them by donating to their crowdfunding campaign page by clicking the link with this film.